Hello, Internet. I don't remember that song ending with a little drum solo. My name's John Kulas. I am a 20-year professor of industrial and organizational psychology. I'm a 10-year user of R for statistical applications, and for the last 6 or 7 years, I've also been using R to author things like academic papers and technical reports and feedback reports and slides, and quite a bit more, actually. So every week I get together with some of my friends and colleagues and collaborators, and we hold these what we're now calling open office hours to just make ourselves available to other people who might be interested in using R to author things as well. And so we're here, you can ask us questions, bounce ideas off. Maybe you just don't know how to get started. We can certainly help with that, or you have a more advanced issue. If we can't solve the advanced issue on our own, we can usually point people in a direction that's going to be helpful. And so every week, what we do is while we're here, we just kind of focus on an aspect of using R as an authoring platform and showcase it. Last week, what we focused on is indicated by the right hand image here, where we have Lightbox images that we took a look at. And Lightbox images were capabilities that are built into HTML products that we make, and it just pops out images. And so, one of the things well, we'll get to that in a second, I guess. But one of the things I was noticing is when using desktop to navigate these, something like a slide deck, there's this nice alt and then point click feature where you can kind of just kind of get a closer look at anywhere on the slide itself. But if you're on a different device, and that's kind of similar to what Lightbox does. So Lightbox would have a similar effect to that kind of popping out. It's more sophisticated. It takes it and centers it, and it gives you an X button so you can X out. Um, but when I was looking at this week's slide deck on my phone, I usually don't do that, but um, my laptop was dead or some other reason I actually accessed it on the phone. And there isn't that capability to actually blow something up by Alt mouse clicking, but the Lightbox feature was just fine on the phone, and so it looked great and it worked great. And so that's something that we didn't talk about last week, but it's something that kind of makes sense. That Lightbox feature is something that might be even more useful and valued if you're on a different device, like a phone. And then so this week, what we're going to focus on in terms of just a feature or something to take a look at is we'll revisit callouts. And on Twitter this week, there was some chatter about maybe trying to customize those callouts. And so we just took that opportunity, since there was a little bit of chatter, to say, well, why don't we use that as our focal topic this week, and we'll take a deeper dive into it. And that's what we're going to do. So let's do a recap here of last week before we get into call out customization.
Well, our heroes are heroes again. They've rescued a boatload of tourists from the Pottsylvanian Pokey and sent them on their way home. Unfortunately, it's not all clear sailing for them.
You know, I got kind of a sneaky feeling we're being watched.
Oh, nonsense, Bullwinkle. Who'd want to watch us?
Well, the answer to that was simple enough. Everybody. For Pottsylvania was a country composed entirely of spies. Even as schoolchildren, Pottsylvanians were taught only the ABCs: assassination, bomb throwing, and conspiracy, with an occasional course in advanced sneaking and prowling.
Congratulations, Fyodor. You graduated magna cum laude.
And every conversation had at least two meanings.
Hello, Vanya.
Translation: we're going to blow up City Hall tonight.
Hello, Gottwald. How's the boy?
Translation: sounds like fun. Who'll be inside?
Just fine, thanks.
Translation: who cares?
Oh, who cares? That's not very nice. That's not very friendly. Um, excuse me. And so these Lightbox images, there's I guess a few different things we looked at, but a couple of takeaways I think we got from last week. One is, if you're just using Quarto as an authoring platform to present the results of traditional data analyses, and you want to enable the popping out aspect with something like a figure. And so again, you can see my cursor upon hover here on my desktop, you're getting that little indication that, oh, something's different or something's interactive or has the capability of interactivity here from the pointer to the, I guess, the arrow pointer to the finger pointer. And so if I click on that, that's the light box feature that's enabled for that particular image. That image, again, sorry, you might recognize it, but we just simply pulled that from the Palmer Penguin examples of graphs and visuals, and there's a million of those out there. So you probably, wow, okay. So many of us, if you use R for a long time, you get used to kind of these visuals and the legends that go along with those visuals. And so for years it was Iris and Cars as well, but Palmer Penguins is kind of a more recent one. There's going to be something else coming up here soon because Palmer Penguins has now been around for a little while. And so this the chunk specification that you see here on the left in terms of the code chunk that produces that image. If we just add a qualifying statement in that code chunk command section, it's just simply lightbox colon true, and that will that will enable this feature where we can do a pop out. Oh my goodness. Okay, I shouldn't have eaten right before we came on. I think that's what's going on with either that or I'm dying. I don't know. I guess we're all dying slowly, but hopefully I'm not dying immediately here in front of you. Now that would probably get us a lot of views, more than we typically have. So I guess, you know, there might be some good that comes of it. Alternatively, if you're using that old markdown scripting syntax of exclamation point square bracket and then in the normal parentheses the image or URL to an image of what you're trying to what you're interested in presenting, you can actually just do a span. So that curly bracket specification in Quarto that renders in HTML is something called a span. And so just dot lightbox, this is not something that we created or crafted. This comes built into Quarto. And so if we just add this little curly bracket dot lightbox, then we get the image again having that feature of poppability, if that's a word. Here we have our co-host here.
Vamos a ver, ¿qué es lo que pasa con los alcaldes? ¿Qué es lo que pasa con los alcaldes? ¿Qué es lo que sí, qué está pasando con los alcaldes?
Hey, hello.
Should we get you a different intro, Diego? Or are you okay with that one?
I'm okay with that one.
Periodically. You are the GOAT, the greatest of all time. So we're just going over.
You know, and like, you know, Charlemagne.
Yeah.
In Spanish, we call him Cabro Magno, which is like because Charles and goat kind of sound similar in Spanish.
Oh, that's why? Okay.
Yeah.
You know how I remember that cabra is Spanish for goat? It's silly, actually. But I used to.
Why?
Because I used to be really into cryptozoology. Do you know what that is? Like the study of hidden animals. So like the Loch Ness monster and Bigfoot and that kind of thing. But for a while there, chupacabra was kind of a fringe cryptozoological focal subject because that was considered a little too it's a silly. I think any little domain of focused interest that has an internet element is gonna have some weirdness to it. But there were like, traditional cryptozoologists who had a dividing line between things like Bigfoot and sea creatures. So there's a dividing line between those real imagined things and the imagined things that sometimes had a paranormal or like UFO type association. So on the other side were things like the Jersey Devil. You've heard of that, right? You're in Jersey.
The Jersey Devil. Not actually. What is the Jersey Devil?
He's this flying horse-faced thing that yeah, it looks kind of like a
Gotta look
horse,
it
but
up
he's
now.
got wings as well, so he flies, and he has hooves, so he's hooved.
Yeah, it's like a goat.
Yeah, kind of. Yes, everything's a goat. But yeah, but there's the Jersey Devil, there's the Owl Man, and then there's Chupacabra was kind of grouped in with those like non-legitimate cryptids, cryptozoological creatures called a cryptid. Anyways, I remember Cabra because Chupacabra is a goat sucker, right?
Yep.
So, and goat sucker sounds kind of cool anyway. So it works both in Spanish and English. Like that would be that would be a great insult, I think, just to kind of have in the lexicon that people should use more frequently.
Goat
Goat
sucker.
sucker. I like it. So this span specification here of Lightbox, my internet should be better tonight, by the way, Diego, but if I'm choppy again, let me know. I'm choppy just because I got something in my throat. I'm not choppy because of the internet. I don't think so far. But that span specification is really easy. I mean, there's simply, another 10 characters that are after your standard image specification. Really, really easy, simple, and both with the code chunk where we're using the command sequence here with lightbox true as well as the span. I'm considering that to be kind of image by image. So as we go, so I decide that I want to use it on this image, or I decide that I want to use it on this graph or figure. And so using those spans or using that lightbox true on a specific chunk, I think if you're using reveal presentations like we've been doing, we've been constructing these slides with that reveal.js, and I've been having a ton of fun with it. So I don't know. I just love these things. But I think that's probably the way to go, as opposed to there's a second option which you can just turn on Lightbox for your entire document. And so in the YAML, you can actually have a YAML specification that says Lightbox true. Now, it'll turn everything Lightbox, so everything will pop, all your images just by default will pop. But one thing I found with that, and I almost submitted a GitHub issue, but then I thought I had second thoughts about that because I can see where the conflict that I was getting is maybe not something that is desired to be resolved, because the conflict that I was getting was with the absolute placement of images. And so Diego, you've seen, and we've done this too, we've both done this when we construct these slides, is similar to the lightbox span. If you use that dot absolute, that's really useful in terms of just being very specific with where you want an image to be placed. If I want to take the Pink Panther and move them up into the right-hand corner, I can do that. I can just specify the height, the width, how far it is from the right side, how far it is from the top, the bottom, the left side, all that stuff. And so I was losing, and I didn't spend a ton of time on it, but I wasn't able to get both the absolute placement specification as well as the lightbox feature to work together when I had the lightbox enabled through the YAML. And so that's probably a long-winded professorial way of saying, if you're using a slide deck and want control over the placement of your images in terms of where they are rendered, probably just go image by image with that lightbox. And so here I have, the third thing that I wanted to kind of revisit was if you just add a group specification, so groups that share the same name, they'll be placed into a gallery. So if I click on either of these images, you'll now see those right hand and left hand arrows are enabled. And so, you could stack as many images as you want into a gallery. Let me, or Diego, do you want to put the slide deck link in the? I guess I can do it real quick here. I'm just for anyone who's interested in checking this out, we have been, I guess, for 4 or 5 months or so, been making these slide decks available. So you can certainly play with it. And then the scripting for the creation of these slide decks is also available in the repository that we use for all of these, and that's linked, I think, in the description to the video. Anything else about Lightbox images you wanted to say, Diego?
No.
It's kind of a neat feature. It's amazing that we've now done, what do we have? We have 38 of these. We've now done 38 of these, and we still keep coming across, kind of newish things. Maybe not new, but new-ish things. I didn't know what Lightbox was, but it's nice to have that feature, I think. So then today I was saying a little earlier, Diego, the context for this is, I've been trying to use Twitter a little more, or X, I guess it's called now. I've been trying to use
it will always be Twitter.
You think so? Yeah, probably. So okay, so I shouldn't feel bad about misnaming it there, huh?
Why did he change the name again to X?
I think he wants X to be an everything app, is what I read. And that was, I guess it was one of the first companies that he tried to create way back when. And so now he thinks that I'm speaking for Elon Musk. I shouldn't be doing that, I guess. I don't know, but the messaging that I've seen seems to present it as though Twitter, which currently X, is kind of going to evolve into serving all kinds of different functions. Maybe even things like banking, right? So transfer of funds and things like that. But I think his idea is to make it the everything app. That's another phrase that I've seen.
Yeah,
So
I
it can
guess
do
banking
everything.
like using blockchain technology, so you don't need to have the money in a bank. It's just everything like on your phone or on the app.
Yeah, probably. I don't know what the end vision is, but clearly, I've seen in my life the kind of de-emphasis on the traditional way of paying for things. So I can't imagine in 15 years that any place is going to take paper money or silver coins, right? There's already places that won't allow you to pay with cash anymore. So
Yeah, I think like some cafeterias, like you go there and they only accept card.
yep.
Um,
There was a liquor store by my apartment when I was living in Jersey City, and they accepted Bitcoin. I thought that was kind of cool. Actually, for a liquor store, maybe not such a great idea, because you can imagine some desperate person on an ether binge just being like, take all my Bitcoin. But yeah, so I mean, I think that's the idea, is to roll it eventually into this app that can do all kinds of things, including payments and banking and things like that. So anyway, so on X, there was a little bit of chatter about callouts, and there were a few people trying to customize callouts. Now, by default, there are 5 built-in types of callouts, and we already went over those. We've covered that on this live stream. But if you want to make something specific, you have the capability to do that too. And so since we had the Snagglepuss and Pink Panther on the previous slide, I constructed a callout here with kind of a Pink Panther theme to it. And the reason that it's important, I think, to publish the slide deck for this week is so people who stumble across this have access to this link. So the big breakthrough, it seems like, for everybody that was trying to do this, it seems like the big breakthrough was finding this video. And so this video, there's a hyperlink to it, and it's so fantastic that I immediately went and and subscribed to this person. I'm like, I need to see more of what she's done. So this video is just fantastic. Like it walks you through and shows you exactly what you need to do in order to create a custom call out. So we're gonna follow her recommendation, and we'll see if we can build a custom call out today. And then we can do whatever you want, Diego. So if you have, I don't know, if you want to build one of these that looks different, maybe you can be the designer. You can tell me what you want to see in terms of an icon, in terms of content in the header here. So the pink aspect of this we're referring to as a broad header. What you want for the left-hand bar, what you want for the content inside, all that stuff is fairly straightforward to customize. Now, the thing about her tutorial is the actual specification of the call out is not super efficient in terms of what we currently have. So that's one of the things I was hoping to maybe address. But the other, and what we're looking at here is actually the slide specification for this week. The other thing I was hoping to maybe address was the way in which this call out is currently specified. And so we probably won't get to it tonight because I need someone who's good at web design. Do you know anyone that does web design, Diego?
Web design. No.
Yeah, I don't either. If anyone stumbles across this, because people seem to watch these more, not as we're live, but they seem to watch it more after the fact. So we typically get 30 or 40 views on most of these. Some of them we get more. So, for
The link,
example,
the link there on the large broad header is that because when you click it, it replaces your current tab, and you make it so it opens a new tab. Can you customize that?
say that again, Diego. You're looking at the code here?
Not the code, the slide. So when you go to the pink broad header there, that one, when you click here, it replaces the this tab with what's on the hyperlink instead of opening a new tab.
Oh, I think that's just how my browser is set. So that's not in Quarto. That's how the browser is set. I see what you're saying. So yeah, it took over instead of adding a new tab. I could set that differently, just by the options on. This is coming up in Microsoft Edge, which I never use. So if I'm in Chrome and rendering a document, it just adds tabs, right?
Oh, that's
I think
good.
yeah. I kind of prefer that too. You're very observant. You're good psychologist, Diego. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna open up a different, just a standard straight HTML file here, and I kind of have some placeholder ones on my desktop that we can write over. There's not anything all that meaningful or important in there. And so again, I always like to just make sure that the default template renders, it just gives me some feedback on, if there's something wrong with my system. And it looks okay so far. What I've done here is I made a CSS chunk. And this CSS chunk is not something that I'm adept at. This was taken from the tutorial. And we'll do a little bit of tweaking to this, but then as soon as we do a little minor tweaking, I'll probably paste this into the chat, so if other people wanted to play with it, they can. Some of this formatting was specific to my slides, so I want to take off stuff that we don't need. The font family is going to screw us up immediately, so we don't probably need that. Everything else looks okay. I don't need columns here. So I'm going to try to find 3. So hopefully that's the right number of fences. So the main issue that I have with this method, and it's kind of a, oh, by the way, so you know, we're in Quarto, and one of the points of Quarto is to enable all these different languages to kind of be the engine, and I'm going to use that word engine here again, the engine behind the processing of this script. And so we might need to, if you see that, I've been seeing that in some of the things that I've been playing with, if it's a fairly empty file. So there's nothing in this testing QMD other than a bit of CSS. And so Quarto didn't know if we wanted Python or if we wanted R. I guess it must default to Python. And so some of the messaging that we were getting here was telling me immediately that we probably need to let it know that we're gonna be using R here. And so what I saw that was most informative there was this Python 3 kernel, and maybe that's not what's going on with it, but it seems like if we just specify that we want R, then it helps. And again, I'm not sure if the Python specification in terms of these fenced divs are the same, the 3 colon and then the curly brackets. I really don't like that. But it looks in the HTML file. Again, we're repeating the code. This is the CSS. I think that I'm going to go ahead and pop into the chat. I just want to make sure that there's nothing else I want to. I see one thing immediately here. I see 2 things. One is I have random fence that I forgot to get rid of. It looks like it's probably this one. So we'll re-render that. Let's see if those colons go away. Yeah, that looks better. Except I'm seeing what's happening here with the HTML file as opposed to the slide deck is I'm getting a little overplotting here. And so we're going to walk through how to read this and what to do about it. But there's 4 elements that are controlled by CSS here in the tutorial that we followed in terms of how to customize these callouts. The first one is just the main object itself, the big box. The second one is the icon, and the icon, and for us, is the Pink Panther. So that's what we're gonna take a look at in terms of this kind of smooshing of his feet. So his tail got cut off, and his feet don't look too comfortable either. So we'll play with that. The pink bit that encompasses the tutorial and the icon, that here we're referring to as a header. And then the body is just where the actual text is here. And the main things about the body are just it's specifying the size of the fonts and the weight of the font, in addition to a little bit of padding. But so I'm gonna, in the icon, I'm gonna make it a little wider because it looks to me like what's happening is the Pink Panther again, his tail and his poor feet are, looks like he's wearing a shoe size that's about too small. He's grown out of his shoes. So I'm just going to make the width here on line 22 of that icon a little bigger. And I think we'll see that there's probably multiple ways to deal with this. And that already looks a lot better. So it moved the YouTube over. Let me also get rid of YouTube here. Well, we'll come back to that. Let me paste, and I don't know, Diego, do you know if there's any limits in terms of the comments and how long they can be on YouTube?
No.
Oh,
On YouTube?
all right.
Well, yeah, they do have a limit on YouTube. I'm not sure exactly what.
Wow, it just broke it up into 1. Or it broke up what I wanted to be 1 into 2. So that's a little unfortunate. Again, this all of this information is available on our repo as well. Hopefully people can, if you want to work with this, you'd be able to get it in sequence. It looks like for the most part, I'm getting it's chopped in two every time. So that's okay. So that's not so bad. So I have a .trynew that's 2 comments. I have a .trynew-icon that's 2 comments. I have a .trynew-header that's 2 comments. And then the last one's going to be my body. And this might make it into just one, which actually is going to screw things up now. Okay, so the last one is only 1 comment. Yeah, we'll have to come up with a better way to actually specify that. Here's the part that I think needs some attention. So right now, and again, this is where I think we need a web designer, Diego. So what I've done is on line 65 and 77, we have everything wrapped into just the outline of the object itself. And so that's this big perimeter. So that's the perimeter going all the way from the upper left to the lower left to the lower right to the upper right. That we're just calling that margin, and there's some borders on that. If we blow that border up, for example, let's blow up the right border. That's probably going to be easiest to see. We should see this silver line here get quite a bit thicker, and there it does. What was it originally? It was 1. I'm going to put that back for now. And we'll see kind of, I think I stumbled across a neat way to navigate what everything here in the CSS is doing to our object, because I don't know CSS. I mean, I'm learning it a little bit as we do more with HTML files, but I certainly don't know CSS. So this 65 through 77, that's the first fenced div. And again, those fenced divs in Quarto are identified by 3 colons and then a curly brackets. Normally, we're just using 1. And so if you see on line 54 here, in terms of our note callout, the default note callout, it's only 1 fenced div. And so that's something that I think we can probably work on and improve. And instead of just using that lady's very nice tutorial that's so helpful, we can maybe contribute a little bit and maybe clean up the nesting of all of these fenced divs. So the primary one here is indicated by the orange. And then I also have the header, and the header wraps not just the header, but also the icon. So within the header, I have this empty fenced div that just says icon. So I don't need any content in there because the content is going to be specified here within the CSS itself. And I think there's a couple of different ways to do this, so we don't need to do it this way. But the actual header text is going to be identified within our line 67 to line 71 fence. And so I'm wrapping 2 things in there. I'm putting the icon in there, but I'm also giving the header content. And right now I'm reading in from font awesome. We don't need to do that, so let's just call this awesome tutorial. So we're going to lose our little YouTube symbol here, but I want to make this a little simpler so people can just run it on their computers. And then the very last thing to wrap in here is the content itself. So the body, and this is just a fantastic walkthrough available here. We can leave that link in there. I'm going to take out fantastic and this bracketed span that we have, because that's calling up CSS that I've created in a different context, and it's not gonna be active here.
What is the coolest? What is the coolest CSS?
That is, if we look at the CSS that I use for the slide deck, I have a ton. So over the course of weeks, I've tried to do all kinds of different, fancy things. And so before I really knew before I really knew less than I know now about CSS. I was afraid of overwriting some CSS that came native with Quarto. And so I started to just use my own name. And that just has a script with it as well as the color, the Pink Panther color. We can build that back in here too. So maybe we'll do that as we build this up. But one thing I wanted to try is I wanted, before I share this sequencing of nested fences, before I share that in the comments, I actually wanted to see if we could simplify this a little bit. And one way to simplify is, instead of having yet another fence here, we should be able to do a bracketed span. And to me, that's helping a little bit, just because the thing I don't like about those fence divs are the sequence of colons. I get lost in those colons.
Yeah,
It doesn't
and
sound great.
some of them have like a ton of them just to do like one thing.
Yeah, and so that's the part that I think we can probably contribute and help to build upon that YouTube lady's great contribution. Yeah, so that worked fine. So the I just changed the content fence into a bracketed span. And again, the only reason I did that is to get rid of some of these fences. And so one thing that I'm learning here as we're going, and the lady had this in her tutorial as well. I noticed when she was constructing her callouts in the body of her document, like we're doing here, she was getting, because Quarto needs at least 3 colons to start and close a fence, you can have more. And so as she was nesting, almost like Diego, when you're building a function, you're really good about spacing your open and close parentheses and brackets aligned with each other, right? So it's easier to tell where the starting one is to an ending one. Now,
Yeah,
our studio is helpful too, because if you hover, if you place your cursor over or behind any one of those in sequence, it'll show you its match. And that's fantastic. We use that all the time. We were just using that, Diego, on Friday, right? When we were building
yeah.
our app.
And in Python, when I took my first courses on Python, with Python you don't have the parentheses or curly brackets. You have just spaces. And when I was using Jupyter Notebook and Spider, it didn't really tell you, what was where each block started and ended. So you had to kind of like just count the spaces and figure out.
Yeah, I like our studio for a lot of the feedback that it gives us. I think it's a good product. We're not going to get to it tonight. I was kind of hoping to. So we simplified these fences just one little tiny bit by changing one of the fences into a bracketed span. We still have 3 of them that are nested. I think there's a way to nest them within the CSS code itself here, within the CSS chunk, to build like a master CSS class. I don't have the skill in me right now to do that, and so we need some help with that. So I'd love, if anyone stumbles across this and has experience doing that, let us know. Let's do this before we play with this a little more elaborately, Diego. Let's maybe see what the built-in callouts actually look like. So we have. I'm just going to change the dash prefix here. So we have note, we have tip, we have warning. We've already done this. We've already gone over this. Caution and important. But we can see what they render like. And you can see maybe some of the customization that we want to do, right? They all come with their own colors, and they all come with their own. I'm going to leave the echo in for now in terms of the CSS, because we might want to take a look at that. But note, for example, comes in as blue, tip is green, warnings yellow, caution and important. Now, one of the things that I was really kind of curious about when we were doing our custom one, and by the way, if maybe I'll go in and change some of the font specifications so this renders more similarly to these right now. One of the things I did on the slide deck is I blew up the font, and so that's why you're seeing it look so dramatically different. But let's do this. Let's actually inspect this element. And so one of the ways that I was playing with what part of my CSS was important in terms of having an effect on the callout itself was to use this inspection tool. And now I think what I'm going to do is, now that we have these standard callouts, I'm going to get rid of them so we can be a little closer to our code. And actually, I guess what I can do is I can just put the standard ones above the code, and then the code will render closer to the Pink Panther so we can see it if we want to see it. So if we go ahead and inspect this element, I'm in Microsoft Edge, and so I'm not sure if the same options are available in Chrome. I assume that they probably are. The element that I'm in right now in terms of the 4 things that we created is the header. So I don't know, because again, I don't do web design, but I don't know if we can change the value, but we can certainly play with these check marks. And so the check marks is just telling you whether something is affected. Now the margin top, the syntax for this is a little different than I would intuitively think. Margin top, what it's doing is it's giving you a space between the previous element, which in our case is the code chunk, and then the new thing itself. So the thing that's actually being specified. Now we're actually within the space of the container itself. So this is, I think, going to have a different effect here than it otherwise would. You see the margin bottom. The margin bottom is giving us more space between the header and the body of the document itself. Border bottom isn't doing anything for us because I think we overwrote that with the color specification that we have a little lower. The font weight, I had this set at 800, and you see there if we don't specify the font weight, we're going to get something that looks a little more normal, and we can go ahead and leave that. The color, I went in there and I made a little lighter gray color instead of the natural almost black. And so it's a very deep charcoal gray by default, and I just put in a different one. So maybe we want to get rid of that. So to me, this looks a lot better than this, right? Do you agree, Diego? I think that looks better.
Yeah,
so if we were
bolder.
Yeah, so if we were to go back to this trynew-header bit of code, all we need to do is get rid of font weight and color, and it should render like what it looks like in that little tool that we have there. So
That's a neat way to learn CSS.
yeah, I just kind of stumbled across that this afternoon when I was playing around a little bit with this. And so if we go back to it now and inspect again, we're going to see that it's picked up the new CSS. So we actually have what was there before is not here. Now, I don't know if this comes through well or not on the screen, but one of the things I was really curious about is when we're looking at the code itself, the left-hand blue vertical line that we see on Note is the same color blue as the background on Note. But do you see how on all of the built-in ones, it looks like the header is pastel? You see that, Diego? These are the same color. This is the same red on important in the header behind important, as well as that vertical bar to the left. That's the same red. This is the same orange. This is the same yellow. Now, by same, I mean the same hex code specification. In mine, in the Pink Panther one here, the pink in the header is the same as the pink on the vertical line as well. I know that because I've specified both of them here. It's FF99FF. It's a nice Pink Panther color. But you can see that left-hand vertical line a little bit. So the way that they did it and the way they built it in Quarto, and again, this ultimately this CSS is it's taken from the Quarto authors specific. The Quarto authors specified it. Wonderful lady on YouTube who came up with that great tutorial. It's linked in the slide deck. She went in there and identified the elements that we need. But the way in which they have the left-hand vertical bar popping a little bit is through this opacity command. And so if I get rid of that, then you can see it. So the opacity, you can actually see it's affecting the entire header, even the icon. So I don't know how, I don't know. We can play with it and see what that looks like. But you're really, the reason we see that vertical left-hand bar pop seems to be this opacity. So if we change that to like 50, I haven't done any of this actually. So I'm not 100% sure what it's going to look like, but yeah, there it really gets washed out quite a bit. And then the vertical line pops. Now, one thing that I wasn't expecting and isn't happening up here is we're not getting the icon and the font washed out. So that's something that we could certainly play with. And it might be order of specification. It's probably what I am learning with CSS is that this exclamation point important is giving priority. So if we wanted to give priority to, for example, the font, or maybe even the background image. I don't know. We'll see. Again, I'm not a CSS expert, but we'll see if that image pops a little bit. It doesn't look to me like it did much different there. So let's inspect this element a little more and see the kinds of things that we have in it that we could maybe play with.
I know a CSS expert.
Who?
His name is ChatGPT.
All right, do you want to try that? Here you see I did play with the font on this again for the slide deck, and in the CSS specification, it seems we can do pixels, we can do ems, or we can do relative ems, and some of that seems to be absolute versus relative in terms of the size of the window. The padding left, you really see the impact there. Placement of the entire bit of it. Padding right, there's nothing really right, so that doesn't look like it's really doing anything. And then the display type, flex, I think just simply means the size of the container is going to be important. So that's obviously an important one for what we have. And then again, the background color. You see it's remaining on the left-hand vertical bar because I have that left-hand vertical bar specified not within the header bit of this, but it's within the actual broader specification. And so let's see if we can actually find that. It looks like there's a lot. These web pages are a lot more complex than they look like once you get into inspecting and taking a look at them a lot more carefully. So the box sizing, the trynew-header.
Really complex under the hood.
Yeah, they really are. So we're looking for just trynew itself. Trynew itself, you actually see the border left color is where we have that specified. And again, in the HTML document, we're not getting the nice feedback as we do in RStudio. So if we look in RStudio, you can see that rendered here as that same color specified, and that's the vertical line on this. If we wanted to, I really wish I could find that. Why can't we find that? Maybe I'll open it up in Chrome and see if we can find it in Chrome. Oh, there it is. I must just not have had it selected well. So if I get rid of that border left color, you see it's just graying out. I don't know if it's easy to see or difficult to see. But again, this inspect element is a great way to, I think, get some feedback on what we're doing here. You're seeing the borders there. The border top isn't having a lot of effect because it's getting overwritten by our header. And you see they only they made it fairly small, but it does have a little effect in terms of the rounding. So there's little subtle rounding on this, and that's the border radius. So if we get rid of the radius, you actually see it squared up instead of rounded. And then what I was talking about with the padding here, the spacing between the top element and the callout itself is specified by this margin top. So if we were to go in and blow that up, make that maybe 5M, we should see the whole thing come down further relative to the previous element, which is the code chunk itself. And now if we were to inspect it, you'll probably see a much bigger impact just simply because that size of that margin we made a lot bigger. Yeah, so there, you can see the padding there. So anyway, we can expect all these elements like this, and it's a good way to get feedback on, you know, what you have and how you might want to specify it, what numbers you might want to tweak. Diego, should we put in, do you want to do a different callout?
Sure.
Let's, I think most people, they're not putting in the Pink Panther. Most people are probably putting in an icon. So you could get an icon from, I don't know, wherever you get icons, I guess. I'm going to see if I can get a picture of Diego here. See what this looks like. I don't think it's going to be, I'm just going to swap out the URL that I have here. And then, Diego, if you want to, we're going to have to resize that, I think. If you want to, what are you on ChatGPT, Diego? What are you on?
No, I'm not on ChatGPT. You want me to ask him something?
No, I think, do you want to maybe try to find an icon? I got to run to the bathroom real quick. I had too much water.
An icon? Sure, I'll get the same guy. What was his name? The guy that looks like Popeye.
Paul Bunyan?
Yeah, Paul Bunyan.
All right, share your screen. I'll be right back. Oofta. Oh, that's a nice one. Hey, maybe we could showcase something else too, Diego, because I know, have you done any PNG? Oh, maybe you're doing it now. Are you
PNG?
removing the back? Are you removing the background?
No.
Because I've been using some online freeware that will take an image like that and get rid of the white space behind it so it comes through transparently. That's been helpful, actually. That looks like a logo for a sports team. Is that like a hockey team or something?
Red Bubble, is that a team?
I don't know.
No, I think it's just a sticker for sale.
Sticker for sale? Who's going to buy a Paul Bunyan sticker?
I don't know.
I'm going to, while you're doing that, Diego, I'm going to go over to Font Awesome and see if I can download just kind of a random Font Awesome icon. Twitter. That looks fine. Oh, yeah, let's try that. Here's image. Image looks kind of cool. It might. I think it wants me to log in. I don't want to do that. I really like the way. I really like the way we're able to access icons and things through R using helper packages. I use a lot of Font Awesome icons. I just grab them using the Font Awesome package. Did you find Paul Bunyan?
Yeah, I downloaded it, the icon.
So let me do this then. Maybe let me send you my little HTML script, Diego, because it's already got a bunch. You could try to copy from the chat, or if you want to be a little quicker, you could probably just grab the one that I send you here. I'm going to send you an email. By the way, do I need a new email from you pretty soon or for you?
Yeah, probably. This the one I sent you the link for Friday. That's my the one I use for my regular one.
Oh, okay, I didn't even notice that there was a difference. What the heck? Man, my desktop's got a bunch of junk on it. I can't. Oh, there it is. Wow. This isn't coming through alphabetized or anything. I'm just getting a bunch of icons. Come on, thing. I see the HTML file. I don't see the QMD. I'm just going to copy.
Do you want to
I'm
share
just gonna,
screen?
I'll just copy what I have and then just give you that in the body of an email. I'll get rid of my signature so you can just Control A and copy everything. All right, I sent it to you. So Friday should be fun, Diego. We made so much progress last week. I'm looking forward to making more this week on our app. Are you going to want to meet a little later like we did again?
Yeah.
Do you want to switch it from Friday, or Fridays are still okay?
Yeah, I set it up. No, I set it up on Fridays at 4.
Okay. As long as
Unless you
that's okay
prefer
for you.
another
It's
time.
fine with me, but I don't know. A lot of people don't like meeting that late on a Friday. So as long as you're okay with it, that's fine.
Let's see.
That looks right. You might need to. I'll be curious to see if you need to also add that engine knitter, but don't do it yet because let's see if maybe.
Let's just do this.
I think you're gonna blow it up. Okay, you can try it. I think I have a lot in there that's customized for my my local renderings. So you can try it, but oh, came through.
There we are. That's me.
Okay, that is you. And the hyperlink still works. Okay. So should we try to get the icon in there and then we just call it good? I'm gonna see if I can
Yep.
get a different icon then too. I think what the helpful lady did was she went to Bootstrap icons. I think I should be able to get one from Font Awesome as well. I'm not sure what's going on there. But yeah, look, I'm getting a lot more quick just download SVG options with Bootstrap.
There we go. There it is.
Okay, but see what I mean? It has the white background in it, so we'd want to
Yeah.
clean that up. There are online, and we don't need to do it today, but there's online helper sites that will take an image like this and make it have a transparent background. Diego, I'm gonna send you an icon that I downloaded off of Bootstrap here, and we'll see if maybe see what that looks like. We could play with the lumberjack also, but I think we're gonna have to spend a little time looking for a PNG or SVG generator on that. So maybe it's not the best use of our time. Well, I got lots of Diegos up now. Everything I'm closing, I'm seeing Diego.
Really?
So that's interesting. I didn't realize that, but as I was clicking through my multiple tabs, apparently what happened was the previous Pink Panther callouts, upon my most recent render, it went back and actually overrode it. So everything, I lost all my Pink Panthers and I just had Diego. So what's the URL in there right now, Diego? Let's see.
The what's his name? Paul Buddy.
Oh, that's still Paul Bunyan. Okay. The other thing you can do with that, since it's kind of oversized, we could make it relatively smaller. We could make it absolutely smaller. Or again, like I said, we'd probably have to go to a PNG or SVG generator to get rid of that white space in the back, because that's really the ickiness of it, I think, is just the white space.
Yeah.
So the icon that I sent you, that is an SVG. So that one should come through.
You emailed it to me?
I think so. Let me make sure. I don't see that it came through. Sorry, I had so many things open. Or I could just walk you through where I got it too. So that was actually pretty quick. You know what I did? I think I got that little, I got the little subject missing warning, and I must have, instead of clicking send, I must have said don't send. But if you just put that in the projects folder, that SVG, we should be able to call it up directly since you're in a project. And again, I just grabbed kind of one of the first ones I saw from Bootstrap icons. I don't even know what it is. It's looks like a bowling, not a bowling ball, a billiard ball. I think it's the number 3.
So here we just put this dot svg, right?
I think so. Now that might come through a little big too, because again, I was playing with the size of the icon to be specific.
Oh, there,
to
number
be
3.
specific for. Yeah, it comes through nicer, doesn't it? Let's make that a little smaller, Diego, in the CSS. Should just be the height and width elements in the icon.
Just put it
Like
4.
3 and 3 or 2 and 2 or something. Yeah. And again, we can do those are in there as M's or relative M's. We could do pixels as well.
Oh, can I make it bigger?
Well, the other thing we could do is we could just make the header bigger so it fits.
Okay, I'm gonna make it larger now. I'm gonna make this 10, this 30.
Yeah, it looks like the container is what's giving us an issue. So we might have to do this in the header.
There we go.
Okay. But no.
Switched everything to the right.
Yeah, and we
Okay.
could, so you
So
could
originally, what it looks like originally, just the 3.
the icon itself.
Yeah, it's just
Uh,
this, the ball.
yeah, like I said, it kind of looks like a billiard ball.
It doesn't have any space around it.
I guess I don't know about that. So, but if you were to open that, it looks like it's in a browser. So if you want to inspect that, right click inspect it, we could, do the same thing. You're gonna have to navigate a little bit to find the spots that actually have the relevant code. And so we're looking for 4 different things. They all start with trynew-icon, trynew-header, trynew, I guess the content we haven't really worried so much about. And then is that Chrome that you're looking at, Diego?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, that inspector looks a little different. Looks like you are getting green selectors there that you could probably play with. In Edge, they were blue check boxes that we could check on and check off. Are you not finding the try new?
No.
I think if you put your cursor on the pink part and then right click.
Oh, there. Trynew. Here it is.
Yeah, those things get so hidden and buried. Are you getting the capability to turn off and on those different elements too, like I had in Edge? I think I was in I was in the panel below that, Diego. Yeah, that one.
Oh, trynew-icon. Yeah, it's this one. And if I turn off the height, there we go.
Okay, so
Another
what we
way.
want to play with is, so that must be that super wide one that you did. We need some padding. I think what we need is there a padding element in there?
Padding. What is that?
I can't, the font's a little too small, so I can't see for sure. I just know in some of the other containers and elements that we are working with, there's a padding aspect. And to me, padding is what we're missing here, right? A little top padding. So is there a top margin? I guess I could pull up the CSS here on my computer.
Top margin. Margin top. Yeah, here it is, actually.
Yeah, so I think that's the one we want to play with probably to push it down a little bit. So if you wanted to give that a bigger number.
Okay, margin top. I'm gonna let's make it 0. 0
Oh,
looks good to me.
was that a negative?
Yes.
Okay, that's my fault. I did that. I wanted to pull Pink Panther up because of that image itself. So that's what happened. Yeah, and so we could play with, certainly height. I think we want to play with a little bit, bring that down. And then we could play with, if you like 0, then we'd probably want the left padding to be
But
0 too.
I noticed that it changes the margins size, but not the actual icon. The icon remains the same. Because when we made it tiny, it was like like this. It was like cutting the icon.
Okay, let me look that up quick here. Image size, CSS.
Maybe background size. Oh, look, we have to change background size.
Oh, it's background?
Yeah. So now it's tiny. Let's see.
Ooh,
So
we can
instead of
also do
7, I'm gonna put it 3.
Okay, good find.
There we go. Now it's tiny.
Okay. That's a good find, Diego. So then, and then we can play. There's also an image tag for max. Try this, Diego. This will be interesting. I'm gonna put it in. I keep thinking we're in Zoom.
Oh no, it's out.
You lost it. What'd you do?
I killed it.
Killed.
I put
You
it
killed
to,
the 3.
I put it to 0.
Oh.
I should probably put it like maybe 3.
Well, here, I'm seeing max width and height, and I wonder if we should play with those instead of height and width.
There we go. That looks
Because then
better.
that might size it. That looks good. But let's try this before we quit, Diego. Can you replace width with max width? Max dash width. Yeah, that looks pretty good actually. Not under regular dash. There we go. And then set that to auto, like a car. Auto.
Like that?
Yeah. And then height. Oh, I'm sorry. So max width, do 100%. I don't know if it matters. Height or width. 100%. Does that say 100,
100?
200, or 700? Yeah.
100.
And then height, do auto. Do auto on height. Now, I think what this will do is this will make it responsive to the size of our window, if you want to try that. Or it could just blow up and not do anything. So we'd have to increase. What would we increase?
The width. The width.
Yeah, but we got rid of width, right? Because I did max width. I wonder if we still need a width. But yeah, I mean, this isn't that terrible, right? I mean, it's something that you don't want to spend your work day on, but it's not. It's something that you could fiddle with, like at night with a baseball game on in the background or something.
With a cup of tea.
A cup of tea, yeah, a nice hot cup of tea. That sounds good. Maybe I'll have a cup of tea.
Yeah, imagine having to write all this code for every single page.
Yeah, I know. Well, you did. You just did it in Quarto. Because when you render it, that's what it's creating.
It was all me. I didn't even notice.
It was all you. It was you all along. All right, cool.
Well, I should get going now.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Diego. And then I'll see you Friday, right?
Yep. I'll see you Friday. Do you have Skype?
Yeah, I can do Skype if you want to do that.
Okay. Well, see you Friday then.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.